recently with all the groups, I've always had as the opening prayer, thank you, God, for the gift of life, gift of faith, gift of prayer. Now I've added the gift of community. So paradoxically, being in community is a gift, and you don't dwell on it by any means, but it is a reality. When we used to meet in common, I would sometimes put something in the middle of the floor as the center, and I would invite everyone to come as close to the center as possible. And so they would come close as possible. And in coming close, everyone coming close to the center, they became close to each other. It's like on a wheel, you know, the spokes of the wheel, as they approach the hub, they get all the other spokes get there, and the spokes are closer to each other as they come in the center. So that's why it's good to have a group, a community that gathers you that way. Now it's hard for us to do that, but sometimes at the final prayer where I say the Lord's Prayer, I say our Father. That certainly is a group word, that we're united as our Father. And then with Easter being here, we can change that to our brother, Jesus. Okay, so we're all brothers and sisters of Jesus. So those are ways of not concentrating, but celebrating the word our. And so think of the bicycle wheel. And so the closer the spokes are to each other, the closer they are to the center. The closer the folks are to the center, the closer they are to each other.
In answer to your two questions, yes, a little bit easier. Yes, still very difficult. My brain just wants to think thoughts 24/7, even when I'm asleep. And so it's challenging. I even find myself occasionally at the end of a thought that I've been thinking about for 10 or 15 seconds, and I realize, oh, I just totally went down that rabbit hole, and I've been thinking about it and wasn't even aware I was thinking about it. It's just until I get to the end, it's like, oops, sorry about that. But a little bit easier in very small doses this week, like a few seconds here, a few seconds there. So better than last week or the week before. And twice a day is for saints. I'm not a saint. If I can achieve once a day, I'm pretty happy.
When I first started this, I took the word that came out of some of our first lesson, that was placid. I think the illustration was Lake Placid, and finding on the lake and in the lake a placid, peaceful experience. So I used placid as my centering word, my sacred word. But I found a lot of distractions with that. I don't know just what it is. It's not, in some ways, It's one of those words it's not easy to say, placid. And so finally, along came Good Friday, and I was aware of, meditating on what was happening with and in Jesus, and I changed the sacred word to Jesus. And I'm finding that a little better, a little easier, just simply because then it relates much more to intimacy, to connectedness, relationship with and in Jesus. So I'm having a little more success with that as the sacred word. So I've let placid go, and now Jesus, Jesus. And I'm finding that to be in its approach towards intimacy uh, a little better. It's still not easy. Thoughts are there. I made a directed retreat years ago with a director, and finally the director turned to me and said, "Do you have a PhD or something?" And I said, "Well, no, I don't." Uh, and so, but your mind, your thoughts, everything just works like someone with a much more advanced degree. And I said, "No, I don't have that, but my mind is active, constantly in thoughts." And so to slow that down, to some extent, it happens helpful with and in Jesus, Jesus. So a little better.
So I'm very new to this. I'm doing it once a day towards the evening before dinner. One of the things that I have found helpful is I actually use a eye mask, that you use for sleeping, that gives me a very dark environment. So I have found that helpful. And I would say that my experience is really divided in two different feelings. One that I would describe as defense, which is fighting off thoughts and, with the centering word. And then the other part is what I would call offense, where I feel like almost my eyes are turning over to the back of my head, and things are getting darker, and I am not thinking about anything, and I don't really need the word. But I have found that I almost am frightened by that, almost like you're sledding down a hill or skiing down a hill, and you feel like getting out over my skis and kind of pulling back from that. I don't really find that experience unpleasant, but it just is almost like on the verge of vertigo, where your head is spinning. So I find it a very comforting and peaceful experience, but I also find it very puzzling because I guess I'm very goal oriented. Am I doing this right? How am I at 90%? Am I at 75%? Was that a good session? Was that a bad session? And it really doesn't seem to apply here at all. So it's an unusual but pleasant experience.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that, John. This is where the intention is important. When you sit down, what's your intention? Now, what you described is what a lot of TM or transcendental meditation want to get to that place of realization, as it were. And but if our intention is that that place is the transcendent God, then fine. So that's why that intent is very important. Now, after a while, just going to the same chair every day or looking at your watch, oh, it's time, that could be carrying over of the original intention. But I think sometimes we need to be more explicit in saying, this is how I want to spend time with God. Not, so I don't know if that helps, or Katie, Bob, do you want to add anything to that? The content of this is the intent. Okay.
And I want to quote what you said to me so often, it's always good. You set your intention to waste this time with God, and it's always good. You can't do it wrong.
Yeah, right.
You can't do it wrong. All you have to do is keep setting your intention by saying the word.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So,
this is the way we have it to spend the 20 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah, and I would say that, the content is the intent, Vinny, as you say, as opposed to worrying about the content of your sacred word. And we are going to have thoughts, and sometimes as opposed to 15 seconds, sometimes I think it's 15 minutes before I realize, I've been thinking about thoughts rather than letting them go gently and effortlessly, just introducing the sacred word. But I don't feel bad about it. It's okay because it's fine. God knows I'm present to be with God, and so it's all right.
Mhm. Okay. Any other thoughts, comments on what has come up already, or before we move on to uh, Thomas Keating?
Could I ask one other question? Whenever you have any conscious experience in this process, whether it's a thought or sometimes I recognize that I am focusing in the darkness on, the little white dots that you see when you close your eyes very tightly. And even when I become conscious of that, should I be trying to clear that and, with the word and simply getting back so that there is no conscious perception, whether it's a thought or looking at something or anything else.
You let it go. White dots or everything. Everything is a distraction. Everything is less than God. Okay. So the contract is you want to spend 20 minutes in the mystery of God. And if you're thinking about something else, that's not the mystery of God. And if you're thinking about the mystery of God, say, oh, I got it. That's not God. That's your experience of God. You have to let go of that even. Okay, well, to be continued.